What's good, y'all? Welcome to Conversation Piece with Patrick Armstrong. I am the titular Patrick, and this is a show where we talk about the missing pieces of the conversations we are already having. Shout out to our returning listeners, and a high five and hello to everybody joining us for the very first time. I appreciate y'all being here in 2024, the year of the nap. We're coming to you live from Naptown Thrift because we have a very special guest today. So give me a moment, folks. I have to get ready to introduce my guest here. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Now coming to the stage, the best rapper in Indianapolis, Mr. Naptown himself. He's here to turn this podcast all the way up. The long-awaited Mr. Double A.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
That was great. Love that.
Would you believe that I've been practicing that for about 2 weeks?
That's, wow. I could tell. It was spot on.
Thank you.
It was spot on.
I think I literally just got it down today in the car, but I've been practicing it like nonstop because I knew as soon as you said you'd be down to come on the pod, I had to drop that intro. It's one of the best.
I appreciate the attention to detail.
Before we jump into it, the bar that follows this intro on Mainstay came through in some baggy denim. Bitch, I feel like Tim Duncan. Is that the best bar of 2023 or just the best of all time?
I don't know. I like to rap about what I have on a day-to-day basis. And Tim setting the trends coming through in the baggy denim fits was a moment in time.
It really was, bro. I lose it literally every single time. It's like, I get so hyped. That's one of the best bars I've ever heard in my life. And
Thank you.
That's my go-to. I didn't really give you an introduction in lieu of what we normally do on the show. I've given you barely any introduction other than being the best rapper here in Indianapolis and Mr. Naptown himself. So for folks that might be listening or watching right now, do you mind sharing a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, I'm a rapper here in Indianapolis. My name's Aaron. I go by Double A. But yeah, I own a vintage clothing store called Naptown Thrift, which is where we are at the moment. And I make music from time to time, but yeah, 6 days out of the week I'm here, open, running the store, and started this up in 2015, and it was in a storage unit, and then, kind of continued on into a store space once I graduated college, and we're going on our 6th year as a brick and mortar here in September. So
I love it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate you letting us use this space. I'm definitely going to be hitting you up more if this goes well. Fingers crossed, podcasters. But yeah, no, I have, for folks at home, you've probably been following me who have been following me on Instagram. You've been seeing me post a little bit of music, and I've been having some Double A music heavy in the rotation anywhere that I go and when I'm holding my baby. So he's going to be intimately familiar with your discography.
That's great.
But I want to start just a little bit further back. What was the first passion? Was it clothing? Was it fashion? Or was it music?
Actually, it was drawing.
Okay.
That was kind of my first thing I was into as a young kid. And I would doodle on everything. I got in trouble. I remember in like first grade, they would send us home with homework, and I would do my homework, but then I'd get bored and doodle all around the edges of my homework with like dragons and, different people and faces and flames and, whatever.
Yeah.
And they were like, look, do that, but on this blank piece of paper that's not your homework.
On your homework.
Yeah. But so yeah, for a minute there, all I got for Christmases and birthdays was drawing pads and pens and I just like to draw. I would come up with my own comic books, my own characters, cartoon series. And then I think, some of that creativity then translated into clothing. But I'd say, before the clothing, even though it was hip hop. But I think I've always said, I think hip hop, basketball, and fashion are all very synonymous.
Okay, they all fit into not the same category, but they're interconnected.
They're all very interconnected. Yeah. Okay, and they all influence each other.
Well, I think it's interesting too that you had a creative outlet at first that was not related to any of them, but also that serves as a little bit of a foundation for all of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you remember any of the characters or any of the stories that you were writing and drawing back then?
Gosh, yeah. I mean, there were some like I said, like comics that I would consistently do, like, there was like a cat character that probably I got influence from a Garfield or something that I was reading. There was like a Grim Reaper character, probably something that I was inspired by Billy and Mandy or something like that.
Yeah.
Like stuff that I was seeing that I was then regurgitating with my own creative twist on it. But I remember like I had up my whole my own entire like trading card series because I was like into Yu-Gi-Oh when I was a kid.
Okay.
So I had like drawn up my entire own card series. And that just, was infinite possibilities to come up with new characters and stuff that I could get creative with. But
the old Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Yeah, Grail. True Grail.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was cool to have that outlet, and then, my parents for supporting it.
For sure. When does that give way then to hip hop and writing and then like interest in basketball and fashion?
Yeah, I'd say once I got into school and especially, during grade school, and you start to find, I think, your own identity a little bit around like 4th grade, 5th grade. I started to care about what I had on. I started to be in tune with like what my friends were listening to, which was hip hop. And I started to see what, trends were as far as fashion goes. I started to take notice of that rather than be like, okay, here's what I had on today. Like, who cares?
Right.
It was like, oh, I need to have these sneakers be white. My shirt kind of be cool, or have a jersey on that's relevant. It's like I started to care about those things. So from there, I was getting into hip hop a lot more than I ever had. And I've said, I remember thinking to myself, like, I think I could take a stab at this. I'm hearing, I was also a kid during like the ringtone era of rap. So it was like very much so not in-depth content coming out as far as what was being played on the radio for the most part. But, I heard a little bit of everything, but I wanted to take my own stab at it. So, getting into high school, I was at a boarding school, military boarding school for high school up north, and we had our own dorm rooms there. We were in a barrack, as they called it, and I had my own little crappy mic set up, and I was able to kind of record myself on GarageBand and kind of play around with being a rapper, you know. And I'm sure it sucked at first, but I kept trying at it, but again, it was like the drawing. It was like I had this outlet in front of me that was a microphone and a program that I could record myself on. Right. And I would just do it over and over. I mean, there wasn't any limit to how much stuff I could record or how much writing I could do to make a song. And YouTube had infinite free shitty beats on them. So I mean, it was that same type of thing where I had an outlet for something I was falling in love with. It's
interesting that you were able to do that at like a boarding school, like a military boarding school.
Sure.
You wouldn't put those two.
No. It was like it was not creative whatsoever outside of what I was doing.
Well, it all kind of gets forced and funneled into that.
For sure. And I think even more so it made us want to have that outlet. You know? Because unless you played a brass instrument or twirled a gun around, you didn't really have much of a creative outlet there. But I enjoyed that experience for what it was. And again, I was stuck, in a dorm with guys who all kind of shared alike for what I was into, and they all, were into what I was doing on the recording part of things and wanted to support me. So they were kind of my first guinea pigs as far as what, I was able to put out there, and they would give me feedback, and I was able to kind of, test out my early music stuff on them.
Well, that little community, community that you've built there, and the fact that they're all kind of aligned in what you want to do, it's like you write about it in one of your songs, you say, if you didn't have something like that, you'd just be a kid learning Pro Tools.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it gives you a purpose and
sure.
a passion. And like you said, you can experiment on other people than just yourself. So I think it's easy to get in the echo chamber of your own mind of like, oh, that's dope.
Yep. Oh, that's dope. Or on the other hand, like, oh, this sucks. Terrible. I'm never going to put it out, which I've heard that too. It's like, and you hear people who have scrapped so much good stuff because they just get in their own head about it, which I get too. It's like, I'm somewhat of a perfectionist when it comes to that. And, I sit on something too long and I hate it.
100%.
But yeah, it's cool to have a immediate feedback from a group like that.
Definitely. Before we keep going, is the AC that I just noticed, is that going to be an issue on the audio?
I can get it out of mixing if we can turn it off. That'd be cool, just to be safe, but it's not a huge deal. It's really not the end of the world.
I would say up to you guys. I can probably just turn it off if you want.
Let's just do it.
Okay.
Okay.
Air on the side of that.
We were getting into it, so I was trying to find a good quick pause.
What time is that? That went off, right?
I think it's still...
Is that because we have
Well, it might take a second for it to kick off. Mine does, or I know that some do that. It should pull out, or shut off. I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be able to get it.
Okay, all right. We'll kick off that at some point. Yeah. All right. Ready? We good? We good? So who were your influences at that time, both musically and fashion-wise? I guess, what were you able to see and find at boarding school?
Yeah, I mean, it was really just kind of internet-based because, I was kind of stuck there in that bubble. And I was in essentially the middle of nowhere, being in the middle of cornfields at this school. It was in Culver, Indiana.
Okay, I was going to ask if it was Culver, but I didn't know if we were going to name drop the academy.
Yeah.
I almost went there.
Oh, did you?
Because
Nice.
I was in trouble at home. But
Yeah. Well, that's what people always ask me is like, what'd you do? I'm like, well, actually, I wanted to go. I had family history through
For
there.
sure.
And my dad had grown up, and mom had grown up in Culver. But yeah, I ended up having the opportunity and got money to go there. So
that's what's up.
yeah,
right?
because I couldn't afford it otherwise. But
Sure.
it was a good opportunity and I liked it. But as far as exposure to anything outside of that, it wasn't much. So I had to rely on the internet and blogs and stuff that was kind of hot around the early 2010s. And, so a lot of hot new hip hop, a lot of, sneaker news and nice kicks and stuff like that, like keeping track of what was kind of popping at the time. So yeah, a lot of like Lil Wayne has always been a huge influence, even pre-high school. Kanye is huge with influencing me and then like, seeing guys like Wale and even like Chris Brown and guys who started to kind of like bring vintage style back into the forefront of like modern trends. So I was seeing what they were doing. And
Wale was really like, I felt like an originator, OG with that style.
For sure. He was the GOAT when it came to like always paying attention to what sneakers he had on, what fit he had on. Every time he posted a fit pic, every blog was
There was like an article or something that came out around that time when him, Cudi, and Drake were like the big three in that time. And there's a picture of all of them. And Cudi and Drake are over here, and Wale's just standing over here. And I'm like, I resonate with that.
Yeah, for sure.
I vibe with that.
For sure.
What about indie hip hop at that time? Did you know? Were you listening? How involved?
I was pretty far removed. And because during middle school, I wasn't very much in tune with the local scene.
Okay.
Probably just because I didn't really have the independence to go out and experience it much. I wasn't driving or anything, and I didn't necessarily live close to a Fountain Square.
Sure.
I grew up in Broderpool, but it wasn't like I would go and see live hip hop a whole lot there. It was really after high school, coming back and going to college at Butler, that I was then, I had more independence. I could get around by myself, and I was able to kind of relearn the city I grew up in, as far as what they had to offer musically and creatively, and then getting acclimated with scenes like a Fountain Square, and I remember going to shows at the Hoosier Dome early on and seeing guys there like Maxie and Flacco and Draco and a lot of those guys that had been performing there early on and really set the bar for. I was like, oh shit, they were good. They're still top tier, but back then it was like, wow, this is the standard I need to be at. It was me coming back here for school that actually got me to be familiar again.
Do you remember what it was like and how you felt when you discovered that scene here? Because I think we've talked a lot about in the hip hop conversations that we've had, like there's West Coast sound or East Coast sound, or like there's like places that you go to that you think you can think about hip hop. Yeah. You don't necessarily think about indie as that. Right. But like Skip has talked about on the show, there was a pretty poppin' scene for a while. Yeah. And so what was it like when you were like, oh shit, this has been in my backyard the whole time? And you were like, you found not just people, but quality.
For sure.
Music.
I mean, honestly, I felt, I was kind of mad at myself. Because I was like, why didn't I know about this sooner? And it's not like it was that old either, but it was like, I feel like I should have been a part of that from the jump, which is another I think factor of why I was so hungry once I knew it was there, you know?
Okay.
And I wanted people to know what I could bring to the table as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, not long after that, I think I was able to make those people aware of what I could do. But yeah, I remember, going, like I said, really the Hoosier Dome and shows around there and seeing, I remember like Skip was selling CDs outside of his set, for $5 a piece or whatever. And I'm thinking like, damn, like I'm trying to be on that type of grind,
Yeah.
because, I didn't have anything with my name on it that I could pass out.
Sure.
But I was like, that to me, that was, something tangible to show that you do this,
Well, it's like a literal investment. Like I've invested to create this product that I can now hand you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So being able to see that in person made me think like, damn, like I'm behind, I need to get on it. So that kind of lit a fire under my ass to really, try to get myself in my brand to where it needed to be.
Okay. So at this time, you're like, I'm going and I'm doing the music thing. You're also at school at Butler.
Yeah.
And you're also like, hey, I'm going to start. I have a passion for fashion. I heard you say once before when you decided to start Naptown Thrift.
Yep.
And you decide to start your own business.
Yep.
In addition to all these things you have going on.
Yeah, I got
Walk us through.
2 or 3 jobs outside of that too.
Okay, you got a lot going on.
I had no time and a girlfriend.
See, you got too many things. I'm going to give your old self some advice. You got too many things going on.
I did.
And you're going to go ahead and start a business. Walk us through the ideation to that and how you came to like, this is the avenue for small business that I want, like a business that I want to pursue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of started organically as what I had on while I was attending class at Butler. And because even in high school and, middle school, when I was, here in town, my parents would take me thrifting all the time just to look for stuff that we thought was cool. And it wasn't ever to like make a flip on something.
Sure. It
was to find something that I was going to wear, my sister was going to wear,
right.
My dad would wear, I would play basketball in, stuff like that. So, I mean, once I got to Butler and got out of that, boarding school bubble of being like stifled creatively and then coming to a place where I could wear what I wanted to class every day.
Yeah.
And I had a new bubble of people who, were seeing what I was able to offer. And they start, we had a collection of stuff that I was finding and that's when I was kind of honing in on my look to be more vintage oriented.
Okay.
And people were asking where I got the stuff and how they could get it. And me and my parents put together a really tiny storage unit right here off Keystone. And I would just take my Butler friends over there to shop it initially. And it would just be, 3 of them at a time. And I'd open up the little storage unit and they'd pick through it and leave happy and buy a couple things. And then sure enough, we made our Instagram page and that opened the floodgates to strangers to see what we were posting and finding and want to come shop. And it kind of let us know. I figured my friends were supporting me because they were my friends. I mean,
Sure.
I think they thought it was cool and they thought it was a good idea, but I also knew that they were my friends. But seeing the people, because Instagram was still kind of in its infancy,
Sure. Yeah.
So as a selling platform,
Right.
It was finding that other people were even into this type of stuff too. And so posting on there and having people come shop that had no affiliation with me prior was really cool. And it helped, validate what we were doing as a business. So then that business model showed that it could have some promise.
Yeah.
And then, we just kept getting bigger storage units and kind of setting them up like similar to what it looks like in here. That's kind of why we keep the look that we do is because it's very much so paying tribute to what our original storage unit start looked like. And we would deck out the walls as much as we could with memorabilia and have clothing amongst all that for people to shop. But essentially, we always wanted it to feel like, you're stepping into like your childhood bedroom or,
Sure.
A blast from the past and you could learn something and think it's really cool. But I mean, by the time I graduated in 2018 from Butler, we had already we'd gotten like 10,000 followers on Instagram and a base of people who had been used to shopping with us for 3 years prior to that.
Yeah.
And we were like, fuck it, let's open up a store. And I didn't really, my major at Butler was music related. And I kind of wanted to pivot and, do something that I saw immediate, benefits from.
Yeah.
And which was this. So we pivoted and opened, I graduated that spring in 2018 and we opened our first Naptown Thrift brick and mortar in September of that year. And then the rest was history.
That's okay. Many dope things about all of this. The first being that this was a family situation.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really cool. I don't know. I didn't know that, but I hope a lot of people know that because I think it's important to the history of what you're doing now and where you're at now as having continued to grow.
Yeah.
I think the second thing is that to think we're sitting in this space, to think of it, the storage unit that you originally started in.
It was probably smaller than this stage we're on right now. It was
wild to think about, like how far you've come since 2015, right?
Yeah.
That's the first storage unit. Do you ever miss anything about that era of starting the store?
That's a good question. And I do for sure. I'd say that I miss the most having time to go out and just look, you know?
Okay.
Because I think what
when
got
you're
us
sourcing stuff.
Yeah, what got us all into this was the love of the hunt and finding something cool. That's what got us hooked. And I will say back then it was a lot easier to find cool stuff and stuff that we were looking for because there wasn't as many eyes on it.
Yeah.
Now it's a dime a dozen of when you may even find anything worth grabbing because there's so many more eyes on it, which is good for us because vintage is that much more popular.
Yeah.
And there's that much more people now shopping with us because they are into this type of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a trade-off, but I do miss having time to go out and just look, just for the sake of saying, hey, I really like thrifting and I want to go out and find something cool. And I mean, these days, over 95% of the stuff that's in here is stuff that people now bring into us and we buy.
Damn.
Just because.
So you don't even have to hunt no more.
Well, we don't have to, but.
Are you selective then, I guess, when people
Yeah,
bring
we are
stuff
selective.
Okay.
And, you know, because we're paying our money to get the product.
And I like it.
But, you know, a lot of these guys, it's their full-time thing is to go pick. And then they're coming to us weekly, sometimes multiple times a week to then sell. Or you just get some old lady who's clearing out her closet from the last 50 years and she has some cool stuff to sell. You never know who's going to walk in. That's kind of the benefit of having a brick and mortar.
Yeah.
But there's something about being here 6 days a week, not really having time to just look freely that I do kind of miss about that. I also miss I don't know. There was something special about rolling out the red carpet for anyone who came to shop at the storage unit.
Sure. Like that exclusivity of it. Like it's like,
cool.
Hey, you want to come over to my unit? And then you just roll the door up and there's all this dope stuff in there. It's like, where the hell am I? Then you leave, you close the thing, ain't nobody know.
Nope. And seeing those people's reactions that had never been there, every time you open up that door, that unit door, it never got old.
Yeah, that's cool. I think I do feel like when you described wanting to keep that kind of aesthetic and pay homage to the original, I do kind of get that vibe a little bit now because it's not that you feel it's not claustrophobic by any means,
right?
But it feels comfortable and cozy, but also kind of exclusive a little bit. Like when we walked up to the door, you had the thing, the curtain pulled over. It's like, hey, nobody just walking in here, even though anybody can just walk in here.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It's so I love it. I feel like the vibe you've been trying to cultivate, I think, is definitely shining through. And I love what you've been doing here. Where originally would you be sourcing from? I guess for a non-thrifter who did not get caught up in the wave of the thrift that you kind of described, as more eyes became more familiar with it.
Yeah.
Where were you going to find stuff to put in?
Initially, my parents were taking us to, I don't know if you remember Value World at all, that chain that was here in the city. Well,
yep, we're getting some nods.
I don't think I remember
Value World.
It was kind of a Midwest chain, but very prominent in Indy for some years. So I think that was the original stores we would go to and what I was being taken to as a kid before it was even a business. You know?
Yeah.
So we'd go there because they would just, Goodwill's obviously kind of the king.
Sure. But everybody goes to Goodwill.
Everybody goes to Goodwill, and they could be weird about they may not put out stuff with some wear to it, which with vintage stuff, a lot of times it does have wear to it.
Right.
And we'd prefer going to Value Worlds to see what they had, and that kind of became our main stops, especially because there used to be one right here on 52nd and Keystone, and I grew up right down the street, and looking there every other night. Also, garage sales. Church sales, flea markets. We've been to a few hoarder houses.
Okay.
If we got a tip from somebody that they were clearing out some stuff or
other storage units.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then the digital selling started to come into play, play things like OfferUp,
Facebook
Marketplace, stuff like that, where we were looking online to then, find stuff locally without having to physically go there to find it.
Right.
You would just see it on your phone. But I'd say, yeah, initially it was all just us kind of poking around at different thrifts and garage sales and stuff like that, flea markets, and seeing what was there.
Yeah. It's interesting that even in the last 8 years, you have seen a lot of change in how the market works.
Yeah.
And how the business aspect of it goes. Like you said, the like digital shops.
Yeah.
And like just the online aspect of shopping. What do you think has changed the most about vintage shopping and thrifting as just like a general thing? Is it just like more people, or from just your perspective as somebody who has a love for thrifting and the craft of it, but also as somebody who operates as a business owner in the space? Like, what do you think has been the biggest change to either a benefit or detriment?
Yeah, I think it's just the biggest change is kind of like I said before, just the amount of eyes that are on it now, and the amount of people who do it to do it. Not necessarily as a business, but they're going to Goodwill, stores or outlets or whatever, strictly for their wardrobe completely.
Yeah.
And this is like high school kids, kind of around when I was really getting into it heavily. We've started to say, like, that's the new mall. Like, you used to go to the mall back in the day and hang out, kick it. Now they're going to the outlets, the thrifts, the whatever. That's kind of the new mall, because that's what kids are after for their wardrobe now, and they're into secondhand heavily. So it's interesting to see, like, especially even from when we opened our first store in 2018, the people that were shopping with us, it was very much so more niche, like 20s, 30s, people who were into a specific kind of vintage clothing, or were looking for like maybe costume type stuff, going to a 90s party.
Yeah.
Now it's very much, man, we got 14, 15-year-old kids coming in here that are into old stuff,
wearing it out of the
wearing
store.
it out. Yeah. It's like, and they are redefining what vintage is too. Cause now, like, to a 15-year-old kid, something from 2005 is old as hell.
Sure.
So it's like, for us, anything that was after 2000, we were like, nah, it's too new. But now it's like, that is vintage now for them. So we're starting to carry some of that era stuff. So that's also changed, because vintage is redefined every day. If you go on the, they say there's like a 20-year window of what becomes vintage and what's, on the uptick of becoming vintage. It's just, it's kind of like, people ask about pricing. It's kind of like the sneaker market, as far as, paying attention to what stuff's trending and what stuff's going for, what's kind of hot right now, what's now a dud that was hot a little bit ago. It's very much so up and down, but it takes being able to be flexible, not being stubborn and stuck in it. It's like, we want to have an identity, but I can't get too caught up in that.
Sure.
Because it's changes so much.
That's interesting. You want to be fluid with who kind of you always have the vintage stuff, but fluid in what kind of you end up sourcing, because the needs and the demands of the people, the customer base
changes, exactly.
Is there something, speaking of not wanting to be stubborn, is there something that you think might be vintage-wise falling out of style that you really love, that you need to demand right now stays in?
I don't know if I need to demand anything stays in. Honestly, I will say the stuff that stays around deserves it.
Okay.
Because you look at Carhartt, you look at Polo, you look at more like an LL Bean. You look at brands that actually have function and purpose and are well made over the test of time and haven't sold out really to, skimp on quality or, haven't gone out of style. And I think that's for a reason.
Sure.
Because, when we were getting into the vintage look in, the 2015 or whatever, it's like, man, Tommy Hilfiger, Guess, stuff like that. Super hot and hyped up then, which is kind of then since fallen by the wayside, because stores like Urban Outfitters and PacSun have then picked them up and kind of churned out a bunch of the stuff that looks exactly like the vintage stuff that was super hyped. So now it's like the kids who are looking for stuff that looks like that, it's like, well, I could just go to the mall and get that, and it's watered down the value of it a ton. But again, I think the stuff that deserves to stick around still does. So it's like, I'm a huge fan of Banana Republic, and I'm a huge fan of LL Bean. I'm a huge fan of Eddie Bauer and Gap, stuff like that. That's like, man, this shit's just good.
Nice. I'm a big fan of Banana Republic too. I like that. I haven't heard a lot of people say that, so I'm like, all right, I feel good now.
And and their old stuff to me was so cool. They had the whole kind of safari look going, and it was very functional. And I know now they're kind of like a outlet store. You might get some like business casual stuff at, which I could do without. But yeah. I mean, there's brands that were cool for a reason.
Yeah. Man, I wanted to ask something following up on. Oh, I remember. You talked about like an Urban Outfitters coming in and then commercializing a bit of what vintage is then watering it down. How do you navigate that as a business owner operates in that space who wants to provide authentic vintage, then has to combat the big box?
Yeah. It's kind of an education thing. The kids will come in and ask, why is this X amount or why do you have this when the mall also has this?
Okay, like you said, the pricing, like when people come in.
Yeah. And I guess less of that is with some of those bigger brands, but maybe more so a specific thing like a concert tee or something like that, where like the vintage one you had to actually go to that concert to get. The newer one they're churning out millions of.
Yeah.
So it's that explaining of the value behind something like that, and why it would be in a certain condition that it may be in.
Sure.
But I mean, yeah, they get it and they don't. Honestly, with some of that, I understand the appeal of a Urban Outfitters version of that item, because some of these like band tees, especially the old like hip hop ones, man, you'll easily drop $500 on a vintage shirt. And that's a lot. And it's a lot to a lot of people, but especially a kid who's wanting to just now get into some of those artists or that look.
100%.
So it's like when he can go to Urban Outfitters and spend $30 on that same shirt, I'm not mad at that. I mean, I don't like perpetuating the cycle of fast fashion, but I get why having that option would be valuable to want that without having to pay a ridiculous price if you're not a collector or you're not, you just want to have something that looks like that.
Well, it's an accessibility thing, and I appreciate you saying that, because I think it's hard sometimes to come to that understanding, because at the end of the day, if the big box was not watering it down, then you wouldn't have that problem.
Exactly.
So it's like, it's the system that perpetuates it. It's not necessarily you perpetuating it. You don't really have a choice other than to be like, well, they're probably not going away anytime soon.
Yeah.
So how do I navigate the marketplace that continues to empower me and hopefully educate some kids along the way?
Yep. And I mean, there has been stuff, like I said, like Tommy and Guess before, that, the big, brand stuff has driven down what we can price that stuff at in here. You know, stuff that used to be 60 and up is now 30.
Yeah.
Because, you can go get it elsewhere and there's not that same hype that was around it. But again, it's just kind of adjusting to that and then, still being able to educate on the stuff that is a little more rare.
Yeah. It's what is something that you are like, if you come across it, you gotta grab it. Like you don't have any other choice in your willpower other than to be like, I gotta have that.
Well, me personally, I don't know if you mean from like a store person. Oh, me personally. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything vintage NBA or like, especially like champion jerseys. Those have never gotten old to me. And I think that was like starting looking for vintage stuff. If you found like a vintage like NBA champion jersey, it just like, the look of them was so clean, so colorful. It immediately had like a nostalgia hit in your brain because you remember watching those teams, those players. I'm a big basketball guy, so it's like, man, though that will never get old. Finding one of those, even when they walk in, I get excited. Even though I know that I'm going to pay up for them or whatever, but it's like, I don't know.
Like, do you know what you're letting go of?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I am. Sometimes it's, I'm like, all right, keep your cool. But no, it's stuff like that never gets old. First one
that you ever came across?
Oh gosh, I don't even know if I remember. I remember one of my first finds was and I still have it. I'm surprised I can still fit it, but it's a NBA on NBC shirt with that old NBA on NBC logo, and then it's on like a old pro player shirt. I don't know if you remember that brand at all. They made a bunch of sporting goods back in the day, but I remember seeing that and just the NBA logo with the NBC, and it was just like the colors, the look of the shirt. And I heard the
I was literally just playing it in my head.
Yeah, it's like you can't see that without thinking that at the same time.
Truly. That also always makes me think of the SNL skit with Tim Robinson and Jason.
Basketball. Yeah.
Like, can we do the one without the lyrics? Oh my God, that's hilarious. All right, we're gonna get to basketball at the end of our conversation, but I want to go back to I want to weave music back into this.
Okay.
So I think something that's been really interesting listening to your newest album is talking about there's a 3-4 year period between this one and How Soon They Forget.
Yeah.
And you talk about on this album having to step away to focus on other things, specifically the shop.
Right.
How have your entrepreneurial and your and Naptown Thrift, how have those journeys intersected with your musical journey?
I think it's intersected a lot. I think actually, some of these people that I've met along the way, the intro has been via clothing.
Okay.
Before they even knew I did music.
Sure.
Because they would come shop at the storage unit. They would know about me as the Naptown Thrift guy and then leave knowing that I'm AA. It's like that was a good conversation starter. And it helped get my feet wet and network. But I mean, it's an everyday thing. Artists come in that I don't know that are looking for an outfit for a show they have coming up or a video they have coming up, and I'm able to meet them, through that. I'm always the guy, maybe to a fault, that I don't over promote myself, or I don't, if they come in here and they start talking music, I'm not like, hey, I'm a rapper,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just not me.
You play close to the vest. This is kind of like, this is your public persona almost.
For sure. And then if people find out that I make music and want to talk to me about that, then cool. But I'm not gonna put it in your face and be overly outward about that. But I mean, it's an everyday thing.
I think that's so interesting that you bring up, not necessarily bringing up that you are a rapper. The first time I came across your music or you as an artist was by accident. I was listening to King of Indiana, and you're featured on a track with Skip. On that. And I was like, okay, this dude's pretty cool. But then I talked to Skip, and then I talked to Corey, and they both mentioned AA as a person that they really like, and you had just put out this most recent album. And Corey was talking about it. So I'm like, all right, I got to look this person up. I am an Apple Music user, not a Spotify user.
Yeah.
It was very difficult to locate your music.
There's quite a few AA's out there.
Yes,
which
there are.
I didn't necessarily think that upon making that moniker. But
Sure.
Yeah, once I started to really, especially put my music onto streaming and, had other people outside of my close friend group ask where they can find it. And I'm like, just look up AA.
Yeah.
They're like, which one are you?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I've thought about it a few times, like, damn, should I make my name something else so it's, easier to, but I'm like, man, so many people, there are people I know that have known me for years that I don't think I've heard them call me Aaron before.
Okay,
because,
sure.
It's like AA's kind of been synonymous with who I am to a certain group of people.
Yeah.
My wife cringes every time she hears somebody call me AA.
Interesting.
And I'd prefer if people called me Aaron, but it's I get that some people know me as that.
We can put that clip out for people just so they start calling. We can we get on the Aaron train.
For sure.
I bring that up because as your number one fan, I'm like, something that Corey and I talked about where he had to get over the idea of comparisons being bad and labels not necessarily being a bad detriment thing, but sign of respect.
Yeah.
As I'm listening to your music and I'm thinking about, how would I classify this person? I think of you as a rapper's rapper. Your favorite rapper's favorite rapper is AA.
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I think about your music, when I think about not only the stuff that you talk about, but the rhyme schemes that you use, your pen, your flow, everything about what you do as an artist. I think that's what I think about. I was wondering if you could define your sound for us, because I don't want to speak out of turn.
No,
it's
for
just
sure.
from my perspective, and I think it's recency bias too, because I've literally 99% of what I listen to right now is your catalog. But I was wondering if, now that you're kind of coming off almost a year of this latest album being out, have you had time to think about what your sound is as you continue to evolve as an artist?
Yeah. It's funny, I've always had a tough time pinning that down and I appreciate that, by the way. That's a big compliment. And I think it speaks to me struggling to pin it down.
Sure.
Because I pride myself in having a diversity of flow and beat choice and what I sound like on a song. I kind of like the fact that if you see a double A verse coming up or have a double A song that you're going to listen to, you don't necessarily know how I'm going to attack it. And I like that. So I don't know. I think I just have a diverse sound and I try to pride myself in unpredictability.
I love that because that makes me think twice. You have the second verse where you hit the end on the high notes.
Yeah.
And the sheesh. I was like, when I first heard that, I'm like, okay, was not expecting this. I'm like, this is what's up. I like just a continued like bringing in of other things, you know, different styles and stuff that you want to try out. And I love that you continuing to do that.
Well, I like to even wording it as if you tried to look up like a double A type beat, not that there is any out there, but if I was a bigger artist and people were making stuff like that, like I wouldn't know what a double A type beat is, you know?
Well, I think that, it speaks to your diverse ability in like how you approach a song and like, cause you can show up on anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really interesting too, between 2019 and 2023 is you weren't putting out projects and you were focused on the store, but you were putting out, there were singles that were coming out. You were showing up on other people's songs, Diop. You had a lot of stuff that was coming out.
Yeah.
So you weren't away.
I was gonna say I wasn't gone.
You had the curtain pulled back.
Yeah.
And you were behind the curtain in the lab.
Yep.
Working on stuff. That brings me to, you know, this inability to define your own sound. I guess I want to extrapolate out one level. And something I've talked to Skip and Corey about and other people who have been involved directly or adjacently to the hip hop scene here is identifying what is Naptown's sound in hip hop. How do you define that?
I think we don't have one.
Okay. Scratch out that next question.
Yeah. But I think it is defined by the pieces. And I think I know it's kind of corny to refer to it as the crossroads of America, but that is, they refer to Indianapolis as such.
Sure.
And I think it's reflected in what our sound is because we truly do pull from so many scenes and so many cities to then bring it here. So even growing up it's not like we had like huge artists, especially hip hop artists that were making a national wave, making, big hit records that could then raise a generation to be like, hey, I want to sound like so-and-so. And then that kind of in itself develops a sound because you're that's coming out of here. So yeah, I don't think we have one. I think we may get, as more people from here get more popular. Yeah. I mean, there's so many people here that deserve to be more popular. I'll tell you that.
Sure, 100%. I totally agree.
So it's only a matter of time because, as far as the industry standard goes, or whatever you want to call it, we have it,
100%.
And, I now in the position I'm in as a store owner and, somebody who raps when they can. Yeah. There's guys, if somebody a label exec looked at me and was like, hey, give me somebody to fucking push. I don't even know if I'd give them me, because there's 10 other guys that I would, I have confidence in myself, but I would love to see them be put in front of a national, international audience because 100%. I know what they could do. Yeah. And I think, to me, until that really happens, then we're going to continue to have a melting pot of sounds rather than a Naptown sound.
Well, something that I talked to, again, with Skip, and something I talked to, Greg Buck and we talked about this, was like that diversity of sound is almost that's what you could consider a Naptown sound.
True.
It's like we're so diverse in it. And sometimes it's a hindrance because, again, like you said, you can drive to Chicago, drive to Louisville, and people would say, oh, that's double A. Maybe not double A from Naptown necessarily, but not to say Indianapolis specifically. There would not, or if a group of people went, they wouldn't all say that's that Indiana or Naptown sound. Yeah. But I do think we are approaching a point with people like Corey, because I know he's getting ready to kind of like bust up a little bit and go all over the place, and I'm really excited for him. Yeah. And it's kind of like what we're seeing, or what at least from my perspective, from this community is some of these guys are ready to take that step, but they've intentionally position themselves here in the city to be kind of like a light in the community.
Yeah.
And like to just be like, I did it here first because this is like, I know my roots and I want to, again, lift the generation up.
Right.
You know, and I think that's really important. And I would put you in that category alongside a bunch of those guys that I think that I'm trying to think of that you might be talking about and referencing. Because even when I listen to your songs, I know I called you rapper's rapper, but there are some that I could hear like on the radio. And the way that J. Cole and Kendrick have done it, like, and like not to compare, but just like the way that you craft a song, I'm like, that's a hit right there.
Yeah, for sure.
And Not Like Us can be the hit of the summer.
Yeah.
Bro, you got some Not Like Us bangers in you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I think to that, I do pride myself on lyricism, which, you know, I think is lost a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, can maybe hinder certain artists from breaking that ceiling of having like a hit song, you know, if they're too focused on being too barsy or whatever. I mean, there's always going to be a pocket for that and a crowd for that. Yeah. But as far as like breaking into that mainstream, you know, if you're too much of a lyricist, I don't know if that'll ever translate. And unless you're a J. Cole, Kendrick, you know, and they're able to do both very well. Yeah. And they never lose that. Yeah.
But I think it's okay to be the lyricist. Like, for sure. I really enjoy Black Thought, and he's not the mainstream guy all the time, but when rappers are talking about top fives, like, he shows up a lot. Yeah. So definitely. You bring up lyricism. I got to open my little notebook here because I have some of my favorite lyrics from this latest album. I just want to read to you and have you react to them real quick. Okay. This first one, give me AOTY. They can never see why they've been dropping, but I'm better denim like some Levi's. Yeah. That's very good. That's from Burnout. First track. Sent the top 3 to stop me. Better send 30. Love that one because that came out in 2020, I believe. No, it came out. Scoreboard is on this album, right?
Yeah, 2022.
Okay, never mind. But it came out pre-beef. Drake and Kendrick beef. And he said that line about 1 on 40 or whatever, 1 on 20. And I immediately thought of that. I'm like, that's hilarious. Wouldn't play that shit if I was deaf and y'all swore it was slapping. That whole second verse is super dope. But that line in particular stands out to me. And then I just make my own check out to Marshall, like where Moss play. Yeah. You got so many sports references. I didn't know that one because the sports references I think are so dope. You're so deep into the sports game, and we've been talking about it a little bit. Big time basketball fan. I got to do a quick jump to synopsis on this season for the Pacers and how you're feeling about it going into the offseason.
I love it, man. I attended probably the most Pacers games in a single season that I ever have this past year. And it was a lot of fun. I love the young team. This is probably my favorite team that I've, you know, been alive for and that I've really been able to be into. Obviously, you know, I was a Pacer fan. You know, I'm going to be 29 this year. So it's like the end of Reggie is kind of what I remember first. Okay. But then, you know, you go into the Steven Jackson, Jermaine O'Neal era, then you go to the Danny Granger era, then you kind of go to, you know, Paul George era, then Victor Oladipo era, and now we're in this era, and man, it's promising. We got young guys, you know, we got humble guys, we got guys that like to play together, like to move the ball. That we got guys that are going to get better. Yep. And to make an Eastern Conference Finals this year, and you know, give I think the Celtics their even though it was their only series that they swept, to give them what seemed to be their toughest series.
I thought so, tougher than the Mavs.
Yeah, I think to me that said something, especially with the young group we had.
I think so too.
And I think during this playoff run, seeing guys grow up. Yeah. During the playoff run and seeing guys get better. Like a Andrew Nemhard. I mean, he was already a dog, but I mean, to see him really just step up in a way that I don't know if we expected to see. Yeah. You know, guys like Aaron Nesmith who literally just put it all on the floor every night.
Hit some big time shots too.
Yeah. Yeah. And TJ McConnell who just brings the heart when no one else wants to. And, I mean, it's you got to love these guys. So I don't know, man. I'm excited. Yeah. And I can't wait for next season. Adding a guy like Pascal is huge. And I think, man, we look like one piece away from a finals run. So
I think so.
Who knows? Who knows what that piece could be? It could be somebody we could develop, you know?
Yeah, I like it.
But I'm excited, man.
I'm here for it. I am also excited. I didn't grow up a Pacers fan, but I am finding my way into it. And yeah, this team got me very excited without Mathurin.
Yeah, without Matt, I was gonna say he's a huge piece that we were missing. But yeah, man, been through some dark times as a Pacers fan. So
100%, 100%.
This is very welcomed. This recent success.
All right, I just got the 50-minute check. So we are gonna push through. Speaking of teamwork, like we have a really good team on the Pacers. We have a recurring segment on this show called Give Them Their Flowers, where our guest hypes up one person or one entity or something that they are loving right now and they're feeling and gives them their flowers. And we were speaking of teams, and I feel like you were doing the work of hyping up the Pacers. So I want to ask you, Aaron, who would you like to give their flowers to today?
Man, that's tough. There's a lot of people. A lot of people out there.
Yeah.
I really got to give flowers to Anthony Murdoch because, you know, he's somebody who has just set the tone for, you know, what it means to be from Indianapolis.
Yep.
And, you know, put out quality content, not waste a word, and just be that guy that anybody can listen to and gain something from.
Yep.
And be a leader and a powerful voice, a black voice in a you know culture and scene that really needs that. So man, that's my brother. So to be able to, I mean, I feel like we give each other flowers, and we've always given each other flowers over the 10 years we've been friends.
Yeah.
But man, he deserves so much more than I could ever say. So
100%.
Yeah.
Shout out Murdoch.
Shout out Murdoch.
That's that dude. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
What was I about to say? Oh, yeah. Give them their flowers. Frida's Flowers. Elevate your next event with Frida's Flowers. Visit fridaflowerindy.com today to learn more. That brings us to kind of what I want to close out with. I want to step back into community. I appreciate you shouting out Murdoch 100%. And I feel like one of the things I really like about having spent time with your 10-year discography over the last 10 weeks or so has been seeing similar names continue to show up.
Yeah.
So you've been working a lot with Man Dog on production, Sirius Black, Baby Ebony, Fox, the Legend, Willis, all kinds of dudes, like here in the city, who I'm assuming some of these names showing up on who you'd push to some of these labels because they're crushing it right now. In the same way that you are, so diverse, which is why I love seeing them continue to show up, because I know a Fox verse or a Willis verse is about to like change the game up with what I'm listening to.
For sure.
What does it mean to you to create with these other artists in the city? And what does that mean for collaboration and how that's changed for you over your time doing it?
Man, I feel blessed that I can have a group of guys that challenge me, because I want to be challenged on a song. I want to be inspired on a song if I'm collaborating with somebody. And they do that constantly. And I feel super lucky because obviously we work together on music, but they're also really good people. And that makes the process so much easier, but it also just makes me feel better that, you know, I can call these people friends, but they also are so dope in their own entity, you know?
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, talking about that list of people I would push before myself, listen to my last few albums and you'll hear everybody, you know? Because before they are going to be what they're going to be, I can always go back and say, this is what they did with me. You know?
100%.
And I mean, that's to me, it's like growing up with LeBron or Michael Jordan. It's like,
yeah,
you know, hey, he was on my little league team back in the day, or, you know, we played pickup back in the day.
Yeah.
And now he's Michael Jordan. It's like, man, these people are that good.
Yeah.
And
it speaks to this idea, like you said earlier, of like when you started to discover the city sound or in the city like landscape, you're like, oh, I need to catch up, or like this is where I want to be. And it's like to see these guys go on that journey with you and come up with you.
Yeah.
It's like we were talking about, you know, raising the floor for everybody.
For sure.
Like that's what y'all have been doing for then artists like Corey who come up, like other people younger guys who are coming up now, the whole Slum Baby family.
Oh
like,
man,
killing out here doing it.
And again, that's like, I'm inspired by the people who I have been working with, but then to see this new group come in who are arguably hungrier than I ever was, you know, it's like that's adding a whole new layer of hunger to every time I feel, I think being content is dangerous, and I never want to feel like I'm content and don't have to give my all or give any more effort or, really work hard at what I'm doing. But man, seeing guys like Corey and Keezy and the younger hip hop scene kind of coming up and seeing how hard they work and how much they put into their brand and who they are. And to see who inspired me and then to have guys like that say that I inspired them, I mean, that's the highest compliment, man. Cause I see them and say, damn, I wish I was half of what you were right now, you know? So it's cool. It's a big cycle, and it's cool that, the one underlying thing we all have in common is we're from Nap. Yeah. And we want the best for the city, and we hold ourselves to a super high standard.
I absolutely love it. Could not ask for a better endorsement for not just what you're doing, what they're doing, but what everybody's doing in the city. It's all different, and it's all so necessary in what we're trying to build together. All right, I got 2 more questions for you. I appreciate your time, your space, and just everything that you shared with us so far.
Of course.
Taking it back to the Pacers real quick. This is a fun one. I know you said like end of Reggie was kind of your era, but I know you're a vintage guy. I know that you know your history. So I want you to give me your top 3 non-star Pacers players and why you like them.
That's a great question. Top 3 non-star Pacer players. I think I'm going to have to go TJ McConnell.
Okay.
I know there's some recency bias there, but I mean, that guy just, you know, how do you not love him? He's a crowd favorite, which is why it almost leads me to my next one. And these are off the top, so I may leave here and say, damn, I should have said so-and-so. But, we'll be here with it. So I was going to say next, I'd probably, again, crowd favorite, have to go Lance Stevenson.
Yep.
Just because you knew he was coming off the bench and you knew you were going to get a highlight. You knew the crowd was going to be into it. I remember being at a game where he crossed up, I think it was Courtney Lee, made him fall on the ground and then hit the shot. Oh. And Courtney Lee is a Naptown guy too. Yep. And I mean, it's just like you knew when Lance checked in, you were going to get something like that. Yeah. Man, to third, who else, man? There's a lot of names. Trying to think. Maybe, I was going to say maybe like a Jeff Foster.
Oh, okay, yep.
Just because he, again, like a workhorse guy. Yeah. Who you knew, I mean, and a career pacer, you know? A guy you knew was going to come in, play the right way, sacrifice his body, do stuff that other guys may not want to do, and not be like one to be mad if he didn't fill the stats up. Right. Because I feel like he was one of those guys, and it's those guys that you come to love that like don't fill the stats up, but they impact the game in so 100%. Many other ways. So I'll say Jeff Foster.
I love it. Those are 3 real good ones. Yeah. I remember watching Jeff Foster play a lot, and it was I liked it because I played a little bit of forward, a little bit of that bruiser, get after the ball, and I really enjoyed that. So that's a good list. Yeah. That's a pretty good list. I actually have one more Pacers-related question on brackets. Your cover art is you on the Jumbotron. I believe it's Gamebridge. It could be the previous.
Yeah, no, I think it was Gamebridge. Yeah.
I was just wondering if you could give us a quick hit on what was going on there.
All right, so it's actually funny story. So me and my wife are going to a game, and I think I had taken like a little bit of an edible or something before I went to the game. So I'm like a little out of my mind a little bit, but I'm feeling good. I'm ready to just chill, watch the game. I think we were playing the Knicks that night, and so we're sitting there. We got to the game I like to get to the game early and watch the guys warm up. Yeah. We're sitting there, nobody around us, and we see a lady coming over and start talking to my wife, and all I hear is my wife say, "Oh yeah, he'll do it." And I'm like, whoa, what? I'm not really in the quick reaction mood. And then the lady leaves and she turns to me. She said, "You're going to do the shrimp eating contest at the end of the third quarter."
Oh, shrimp.
And I was like, what now? But I was like, I mean, if anyone knows me, they know I eat, and they know I eat quickly. So it was probably a good combo. And they called me up there. I was nervous. I hadn't been on the Jumbotron outside of maybe a random fan cam. Yeah. Sat me down with 2 other people. I think that it was a guy and a girl, and I think they were on a date. So I was like, they're not trying to get dirty, you know. They're here on a date. Like I'm about to wipe the floor with them. So I did. I think I finished because it was like 8 shrimp in the cocktail sauce, and you had to eat it in a minute. And I think I finished in like 25 seconds or something like that. I was powering through, crushing it. And I don't know if that was the edible helping me out or not, but maybe. I don't really remember what happened during. I just remember people tagging me in photos after, having me on the Jumbotron looking a mess, you know, with cocktail sauce all over my face and hands. And yeah, I took home the trophy though. I think they gave me like a $150 gift card to St. Elmo's and a thing of cocktail sauce. And I was like, after that, I was hoping they'd invite me back to defend my title.
Sure.
But
never did.
Alas.
Come on, Pacers. Pacers Sports Entertainment Team.
I know.
Bring him back.
I know. Hey,
Aaron Marshall.
it was fun though.
Yeah. You got the win. You still have that win forever and immortalized as cover art for one of your singles.
For sure.
I love it. Aaron, I appreciate, again, the space for you sharing everything that you shared here with us today. Excited to let the people hear this conversation, let them know that we can move towards Aaron and not Double A so much when we see you out in person. And excited for people to know more about just the origins of the shop and a little bit more about just thrifting in general and how they can support and stuff like that. But leads me to the final question. How do we support you after this? How do we find you? How do we follow you? And where do we get your music at?
Yeah, the shop on all platforms is just at Naptown Thrift, Instagram being our main platform there. Pull up, there's way more in store than is anywhere online because we want you to come touch and feel and try on vintage clothing. It's all one of one. And the best part is coming to see it in person and enjoying the vibe of what we've created in here. So I'd say follow us and shop online, but I encourage you to make the trip and come in here. You can follow me everywhere at Double A Naptown, which is DOUBLEA Naptown. And then everywhere on all platforms at Double A or just search Double A. But I guess, you know, like Patrick said, there's some Double A's out there. Yeah. So if you go to any of my online socials, I'll have a link on any of those to where you can find me.
For sure. We are going to link them in the show notes as well, so you have that there. But go follow him. Go support him. Support Naptown Thrift. Thank you for letting us use this space. We are getting out of here at the right time. This sounds like there's a party going on next door. So we're going to go ahead and get out of here. But for everybody else, you know, episodes every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcast or on YouTube. If you want to follow us on Instagram, you can do so at Conversation Podpiece. Go to our website, conversationpiecePod.com, to catch up on the archives, see everything that we have going on there. Merch coming. Merch is coming. We're in the back half of 2024. That is the year of the merch. I forgot that I'm supposed to be looking at this camera. To my team, shout out to Mike Lee on the camera. Shout out to Popular Rapture and John Overton on the mics. Thank you for rolling with me on location to set this up. Shout out to Double A for giving us the space and letting us use the store to have this conversation. And shout out to you for being an awesome, incredible guest.
Thank you. Back at you, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. For everybody else, I've been Patrick Armstrong, and this has been Conversation Piece. We'll see y'all soon.